Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of 5 Influential Horror. Today, I'm joined with Ashley from Sledgehammer Horror.
Hello.
She and Ken have been on my channel before. Ken came back one other time, and I was really interested because I'm still learning a lot about them, what their influential horror was, and I thought it'd be great to start with Ashley. So that's what we're going to do. So thanks for making time for this. I'm excited about your list.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited too.
Yeah, I think only one of these has been on here before, which is like,
oh, okay,
makes like the best conversations, because I was like, and because one of them I had to revisit because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and another one I revisited just in case. But yeah, that's exciting when there's like 4 of the 5 that have not been discussed yet.
Yeah, so. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So your number 5 is Poltergeist 3.
Yes. Yeah. So, Poltergeist is, I love the franchise of Poltergeist, and I feel like 3 is super underrated, and it's actually my favorite out of all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like it gets a bad rep because of the ending and how, abrupt it was. And again, I know a lot of people know the story behind it, how Heather O'Rourke lost her life, as a young girl. And so they really didn't want to finish the movie.
Right.
And that's just kind of how they put in a double that kind of looked like her, and they just wanted to be done with it. Like they didn't even want to finish the movie to begin with.
Right.
So even though the ending, it does suck, and I wish they would have done a better ending for her, like in honor of her.
Yeah.
I still I still love the movie. I love all like the mirror effects that they did in that movie. I think it's super creepy. And it just scared me as a child, like when they're in like the car garage and that puddle is like taking her down, like all of that just freaked me out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's probably the one that I watched the most growing up. Yeah, so it's actually my favorite, but I do hear a lot of like negativity towards it. So I just, like I said, I think it's super underrated. So I like to talk about it as much as I can, just to like maybe people revisit it and feel a little differently about it.
Yeah, so this was one that I decided to revisit, which I don't know. I'm gonna fix this really quick. Hold on. It's like sliding. I know it's gonna fall like at any moment.
Oh, you're good.
I adjusted it once, and then it was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Sorry. Okay. So, Poltergeist is my number 1 most influential, the original. I've got, it's my first memory of life. It's the first franchise that I was ever introduced to as a child. My gateway drug into horror. Yeah. Like, I have the beast tattoo on my arm. Like, I'm very much a huge fan of Poltergeist and the franchise. I know a lot of people, and I feel I have weird emotions about the 3rd just because of the stuff that went beyond, behind the scenes and the stuff that they went through, especially after watching Cursed Films on Shudder, where I got to hear like more of it, things I didn't know. I didn't know she was misdiagnosed. That wasn't something I knew until I watched that. But I do think that it's very Poltergeist. It's the 3rd movie in a franchise, but it's still sticking true to like everything that it was in the original, from the family dynamics to the creepiness, the way that they kind of balance our world with this other like dimension, like all these things. I think they did a really, really good job. And it is unfortunate. I mean, they got a lot of pressure from the studios to like finish it, even though they didn't want to. So they did, the best that they could. But I agree. I think mirrors in general make me so uncomfortable.
Yes.
And this does it really, really well.
Yeah, if you go like we were in a hotel over the weekend, and like they had mirrors everywhere by the elevators and stuff, and I was like, it's so creepy, like just like looking at a mirror and then like having like you not actually like doing what you are doing in real life, like that kind of stuff creeps me out.
Yeah, that will never not be creepy, no matter how old that movie be. Like, no matter how far in the future we watch this, like that will never not be creepy. Like the scene, like they're all, the one that I thought was like probably the most frustrating for me on top of being creepy was when they're when the aunt and uncle, or the aunt and the husband, or like in the she's sitting like this watching him walk away, and he doesn't move. And then she like looks, and it was this moment of like, okay, good. Now we're going to have this like aha moment, like something's amiss. Nope. She just kept looking back and forth. But I was so bothered. If that happened to me in real life, I would not be as calm as she was in that scene.
No, like, get me away from these mirrors. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I just like how they tried to do something different. You know, it wasn't the house anymore. Like, they went to this high rise, and wasn't like, you know, she was sent away to be with her aunt and uncle because mom and dad, I guess, had enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess this premise is sort of like to get help, right? Because she's going to that gifted school, and you know, seeing the psychologist, I guess, not really therapist. I guess he's like a psychologist who's like one of my least favorite characters ever.
Yeah, trying to like make it all like about like her mental health and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, what he says the same thing like over and over. He's like, it's a suggestive memory, or something like that, and you're just like, you are so dumb. Like that part when Tangina comes in and meets him, and she goes up to his jacket. I wanted so badly for her to just be like,
right. She would be the one to do it too. I love Tangina.
Yeah,
she's so little, but she's like so sassy. I just love her.
Oh yeah, no, she's fantastic. She is one of my she's one of the best, like the ones that sticks out in that franchise in general. She's great. Yeah. But I really thought with how she is as a person, and she's probably like so over him, even though she's technically just meeting him. And she goes over and she does that thing where she grabs his lapels like, yes, hit it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Poltergeist 3 is really good. And I would definitely agree that it's underrated. I think too, like, and this happens with other franchises too. I think people get a little wrapped up in the other things aside from the film itself. And then it doesn't really allow them, or they don't allow themselves to see it outside of that lens. And so it makes it hard for people to like it or appreciate it as much. But I don't think any of them are weak. I love the second one too. Like I thought all three of them were good.
Yeah. That's awesome. We recently just did like a versus on the original and the remake. And when we watched the remake, I didn't remember a lot about it. Like, it wasn't really that memorable to me, but like going back, it's not as bad as I remember watching it in the theaters. But it's no original, obviously.
Yeah. I did an episode of it on my remake series as well. And I rewatched it because I had only seen it when it first came out, and I remembered hating it. Like I went in thinking like I hated it, but like you said, like it's so mediocre. I didn't really remember a lot about it. So I have to rewatch it if we're going to talk about it. And then, and I was like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I remember, but it's just, I mean, yeah, they missed a lot of the emotional stuff for me. Like the moments with the family were some of the things that made that film so impactful. Like it made it so impactful. And so like when they did, like, some moments were like really good and I liked them, but they just didn't go deep enough to make me feel the things that the original made me feel. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I'm really excited that this one is on your list. So your number 4 is Bride of Chucky.
Heck yes. I know this movie. I love this movie. It is a little, it's goofy. It can be goofy, but I love like the horror comedy aspect of it.
Yes.
And I just think it's awesome. Like Chucky is this serial killer. Like he doesn't care about anybody's life, obviously, but now he has this love interest. And if anybody was born for this part, it was oh gosh, now I'm sleeping. His love interest, Jennifer Tilly, yes. It was her. Like she was born to be the bride of Chucky. Like she's amazing. Yes. I love her so much. And just like, I don't know, like she gets more of the good kills, obviously. Like I think like this is what the franchise needed. Like she was this breath of fresh air for this franchise. And I have a lot of fun with it. But it's not quite as goofy as the next one, Seed of Chucky. I felt like I still like Seed of Chucky, but I felt like they hit the mark a little bit and they made it a little bit too over the top with their goofiness.
Yeah, I agree.
but this one is just like perfect between the comedy and the horror. And
Yeah.
um, Child's Play is probably my second favorite franchise of all time. So when they made this, like I went and bought the DVD and I loved it. So
Yeah. I remember I had a sleepover for my birthday the year this came out, and I somehow miraculously convinced my parents to get to rent it for me from,
mhm,
Blockbuster or whatever. And I remember watching it and being like one of few in my group of female friends
mhm,
that was like in it. Like I was so in I was so into it. And naturally, back then I was still probably I think I was in middle school when that came out, I think.
mhm.
So it was a while ago, but I think like obviously I didn't get everything back then when I saw it,
Right.
but when watching it as someone who's much older, I think that like one of the things like and this is kind of piggybacking off what you said about it being like a breath of fresh air and her being what was needed. It really did bring in the franchise into a more modern setting because they've even got the kind of meta thing of like where she's like, that's such a boring thing. She's like, you act like that knife is just like attached to your hand. She's like, got to get more creative. And she
Right.
like, and then we get that really cool one in the van with the nails in the face and like, and just
Mhm.
kind of bringing it into a more modern audience and then adding the more comedic element. Cause I mean, Chucky, when I first saw Chucky for the very first time when I was very young, like Chucky was scary to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the first one actually came out the year I was born. 88. Is that when the first one
Mhm.
came out?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's when I was born. And I watched those movies and they absolutely were really scary. So to go in this other direction and still make it unsettling, because there's still some pretty scary, uncomfortable moments in it too. It
Mhm.
was just it's really, really good. And I just started the show I don't know, maybe like a month ago. I'm very slow moving on shows. So I still haven't finished. I don't even think the first season yet, but I'm working through it, and I'm really excited to get to the Tiffany Valentine Jennifer Tilly parts because I did really love what she did, what she added to the
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah, she's just her acting style and she's just so amazing. Like I love her. Like I'm so glad that that's the way they went is with her. So,
Yeah. Have you
for
watched the
sure.
show
Yeah. Yep.
all the
I-
way? You're caught up.
I'm caught up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you haven't seen the second season or you have?
So I'm in the first season. I'm right after oh my god, our main guy and our bratty popular girl have teamed up.
Oh,
That's where I'm at.
yeah. Okay.
So like 3 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first season a little bit more than I did the
Okay.
second season.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed the second season. I'm
Okay.
excited to see where they go with it from here.
Yeah. I really like the first season so far, and I really love that the title things are different every time. I know
Yes,
that's such like a
it's so
silly thing to
cool.
like, but they look so cool when they get
It
zoomed in
does.
and you see that it's all different. Like the one with the syringes, I was like, "Ugh." I
Oh,
loved
I
it.
know.
So
Yes,
good. Yeah.
yes, I agree.
Yeah, I love that that's on your list. I feel like some people like I know it's like kind of one of those things it feels like it's divisive because I feel like people that like it really loved it and got a kick out of it and enjoy it,
Mhm.
and then other people are like, "What did you do to my franchise?"
Yeah, like you gave him a love interest. Like now he's not scary, but I feel like he's still scary. And
Yeah, yeah.
he's a killer doll. Like that's freaky.
Well, and I think it was interesting anyway because like it wasn't like it's not as simple as like, oh, that's just like this cute romantic thing. No,
Oh, yeah,
it's
no.
very, very not good. Like it's very like
No,
it's
they
like
have their
cult.
relationship is very toxic.
Yeah, it's very like for lack of a better example at the given moment, but it's very Joker and Harley Quinn. Like it's very like not
Mhm,
healthy, very
mhm.
not, just not great. And so it's still and that to me, like when you start getting into things of like cult mindsets and being manipulative and being able to do that, that's still very scary.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, so your third one was one I had to revisit because I couldn't tell you how long ago it was when I saw this one, but The People Under the Stairs.
Yes. So actually this is like my probably my favorite horror movie ever. Um,
Okay.
Yeah. I love a horror movie that has a message, but is a horror movie first.
Yes.
And this one definitely has a message behind it.
Yes.
And I think that mommy and daddy, or brother and sister, whichever you want to call them,
Hmm.
are terrifying. Like, they are bad people. And the
Yeah.
people, like the boys that lived under the stairs, they scared me so badly as a child. Like, that freaked me out.
Yeah.
Like, to the point to where I like would have trouble going down into my own basement because of it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that really scared me. And like Fool, I think he's an amazing child actor. I think he really did a great job.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like all the things, like he has that bondage suit on, daddy does, and he's like, chasing him through the walls and like shooting everything and trying to get him. And it's the concept of it is just it's terrifying, because that's something that could probably really happen.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you factor in like the scenes where she's like buttering up the cops and she's like I feel like those scenes like are too close to reality. Like she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, she's like, yeah, we saw this van here and they just, but they've ran off there. We've checked the house. There's no like there's no question. Like
Yeah.
no question that like they were being honest. And it kind of makes this is a bit of a stretch, but kind of and not really at the same time. But it kind of reminds me of like the first time I heard that Dahmer almost got caught when that one guy got away and the
Mhm.
cops were like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And they just like,
They're just, yeah, they could have, caught him then before
yeah,
he did anything else to people. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Like,
yeah,
especially if you're like charming and, you're intelligent, like people believe you and they don't really question you.
yeah. And they look a certain way and they have
Yeah.
money or they appear to have money. Like it's, I mean, they're just like, "Oh, go inside and lock your doors." And she's like, "Oh, we will." And I'm like, "You guys suck." Like,
Yeah.
come on. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how old I was the first time I saw this, but I remember going into the rewatch, remembering being quite afraid of this because, but what I remembered is kind of like what you were saying was I didn't remember the mommy and daddy part of it as far as like being scared. I
Mhm.
remembered the creatures, the
Yeah.
boys living under
With-
this. I'm like, that was even in the beginning, I was like, I felt like I sort of remembered bits and pieces of it, but it had been so long. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're not actually bad guys, but like they're scary. Like when he
Yeah.
first gets down there and they're like coming in and because they look like zombies, they sound like zombies.
Yeah, they haven't seen daylight in God knows how long. And yeah, like they look like the monsters that mommy and daddy are on the inside. Like
Yeah,
that's yeah.
exactly. But they're just not, they're kind. They're not like, they just were really
Mhm.
just brutalized in a lot of different ways and the different, that was like I think that when she's telling is Alice when Alice is telling
Mhm.
Fool, basically our info dump where we get the information about what the people are that are in the basement. And she's telling them that you're just oh, like the concept, like because we've already seen how they interact with her, and so
Yeah.
you're already like the child abuse stuff is so, I mean, we're both parents, like it's just
Mhm.
like, oh, now it hits a lot different, I will say that, but it's just
Oh
like when
yeah,
she's telling
absolutely.
him all of that stuff, you're just like, oh my god, like they did this to
Mhm.
how many people before that point in the story, really, it's
Yeah.
awful.
And yeah, and they have, this basement is full of these boys, and they like are throwing just food in there, and they're just like starving, and it's horrible.
Yeah, and I think adding on to the fact that they are monsters, these human beings, they're like, what is even the point? They don't seem to have a problem killing them. So to know that like they just are like fine with the premise that they're down there and
Mhm.
they're living these like they're just fine with it. Like it doesn't bother them. They're definitely not losing sleep over it. That they'd
Yeah.
be okay having all these human beings living beneath them, living that way, and it just is totally fine and normal for them. It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, that right there is a monster.
yeah, yeah. And I love the ending. Although it's
Yeah.
interesting because like I don't know like what would happen to them once they get out because like
Yeah.
they can't, a lot of them couldn't talk. Well, I don't think any of them can talk, right? None of them can talk. They don't really know anything about the outside world, but will
Yeah,
suspend
like how
disbelief.
would you put them back into society now with, when they've lived that who knows for how long in these conditions? Like how would that
Yeah.
even work for them? Yeah.
Yeah. But I do love that scene where the community gets the money and then you see a few of the different ones that were living in the basement. Like you see them kind of out just like marveling at the sky. Like they have no use for the money stuff. They're just
Right.
happy to be out like in the world. And it's like such a like good, it's like the epitome of like a good ending. Like it's like everything that you want to have, everything works out. Like it's like it
Mhm.
ends up being really, really good and happy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love that ending.
Yeah. I don't even know. I can't think of another movie that's even close to that as far as like, because that came out in the 90s.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I can't think of anything that's even close to that as far as like, and then there's also, this is something I do really like about it too. There's like these moments where it seems like it's wrapped up, whatever's
Mhm.
going to happen. And you're like, oh, and then, but there's still some unfinished stuff, but there's just like a couple of times where it's like, oh, okay. Oh,
Mhm.
okay, but then it just keeps going, and then I know, like, seeing Fool back in the house, I'm like, "What are you doing?" But he's, like, there to save Al. I don't know, like, all of that stuff was just really well done as far as, like, keeping me invested and wanting, like, the best for these characters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how couldn't you? They're kids, you want the best for them.
Yeah, and the only other adults that are not bad or aren't cops is Fool's family, and his mom is, like, super sick.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they're like losing their home because of these horrible people that are just stealing money.
mhm. Yeah, and just, like yeah. And one of my other favorite parts is when she pulls the gun on the sister and the whole community is back there and she's like, "You gonna shoot all of us?" I'm like,
Right. Yes.
that was such a powerful scene. I was like, "Yeah, what are you gonna do now, lady?" Yeah. Okay, so your number 2 is Pet Sematary.
Yes. So Pet Cemetery is actually where it all started for me. This was the first horror movie that I ever watched.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess it's really what started my love for horror. Like I
Okay.
love the way it made me feel, like the anxiety. And I just, after I watched this movie, I was like, all right, I like these scary movies. I want to watch more.
Okay.
So yeah. And Zelda, she's what nightmares are made of. She's so scary. Like I
Yeah.
was asked to talk about a scene that scared me the most, like either growing up or now. And I had to bring up when Zelda is crouched down and she gets
Mhm.
up and she says, I'm gonna twist your back like mine. You'll never walk again. Like that is so scary. And the way she looks it's what nightmares are made of. Like I don't know that movie and just like
Yeah.
I can remember watching it for the first time and being so invested in it, like watching Gage after he buries him and then him coming back and he's still so cute, but now he's evil. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, I love it.
How old were you when you saw this for the first time?
I was seven,
Okay.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah. I was probably just a little bit older than that the first time I saw it too.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually trying to think. I don't think I've revisited it since I've become a parent, but I
Yeah.
know that I
It's
the remake came to streaming and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to watch this cuz I love the original." And then it gets to the very first like the very opening scene. Nothing has happened yet, but I see that first truck and I turn it off. I was like, "Oh, I forgot about that." No.
yep.
Should not
Yes.
like not
It's
with my at the time like 3-year-old is in his bed. No.
mhm.
I don't think I could do it.
It definitely hits you different. Like it definitely and it makes it I guess the heartache even worse because like Gage is running, he's trying to chase after him, and then he gets hit by that semi, and then it goes through all of these like pictures of him, like his birthday and like all this stuff as he's screaming, and it's like it's so emotional for for anybody really, but when
That's
you have a
true.
child even close to that age or a child at all, like that is like one of your biggest fears. Like you're constantly when kids are little, they run out, like they run and you're trying to chase them, and it's like I just feeling that fear. Like, oh, it's such a powerful but yet like heartbreaking moment.
It is. And it's like the first like major thing. I mean, I guess we get the stuff with church first, but it's
Mhm.
like, that's like the change of pace for the film is like, he dies and then he goes and takes him to bury him, or, takes his body to bury it at the cemetery and stuff. And like all of that happen. And then it's like the rest of the movie is like a totally different side of
Yes.
things. And yeah, it is. It's like, I mean, I always thought it was scary in general.
Mhm.
But on, a younger watch, it definitely didn't hit the same. And the Zelda stuff was the stuff that I remember the most vividly. The exact scene that you're
Yeah.
talking about is the one that when I think of Pet Cemetery and I think about like what really got to me from that, it's always that scene.
Mhm.
Like it's so scary the way that Zelda looks, the voice, the movement, like everything about it is just like,
Yes.
yeah, super scary. And like, because when we get introduced to Zelda originally, it's like in a bed, but then when you
Yeah.
see like oh god, the whole thing is like is
When
really,
she's like
that probably
walking.
is, I would agree, like probably the scariest part of that whole film.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and even, I'm trying to think of the ghost guy's name. I can't think of it. Um, oh,
Oh, yeah,
the
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, like
The guy
he
from the
scared me
cover,
too.
right? The
Yes,
guy with
yeah,
the,
where his
yeah.
like brains are like hanging out, and yeah,
Yes.
and he's like trying to like tell him what to do, and like don't do that. And he creeped me out too as a kid, but Zelda more than anything. Like even when she's in the bed laying and she's like feeding her, oh, and it's like all over her face, and yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. Did you end up reading Stephen King, like, when you got maybe older? Was it more
Um,
of a movie thing?
Yeah, it was more of a movie thing. Like, I wish I would I'm trying now to, like, read some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, not in like, when I was a teenager, I wish I would have gotten into that stuff.
Yeah, I tried, I saw that, and I used to watch, the Sci-Fi Channel I don't know if they still do or not, but they used to do a miniseries month in March, and so that's when I would see, like, the It miniseries. It's just a long
Mhm.
movie, but the originals, and then, what was the other one? The Shining with Jack
Yeah.
Nicholson. That was, like, my introduction to Stephen King was those 3 things, Pet Sematary, The Shining, and It, and I tried more than once to read him, and it just is not my cup of tea. But I love the adaptations that have been done from his work. Like most of
Mhm.
them, in fact, I think are really well done. I really, really liked Pet Cemetery though. And I probably watched it. I was probably way too young to watch it when I watched it originally. So I was
Yeah.
probably a little bit older than you were, but it was one that, I mean, I never forgot. I even remember because I've only seen the second one once. And I
Yeah.
watched it probably right after I watched the first one, and I still remember that one pretty vividly too.
That one's a little more goofy,
It
but
is.
I enjoy that one too. Not as much as the original, but
Yeah, no.
yeah. Yeah, it that one's not bad.
Yeah. I just remember the part with the rabbits. Is it
Oh,
rabbits?
yeah.
It's like it's like towards the beginning, I think. But I was just like, as a kid, I was like, oh, not the rabbits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember. I don't really remember. I remember a few other things from it, but that's just the part that I always remember, and it makes me sad. So
I
I've looked.
just like the stepdad coming back and like sitting at the table and like eating mashed
Oh,
potatoes. Like I
yeah.
that's something that like sticks with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't, and then did you like the remake?
Um, I didn't on first watching. Like I
Okay.
was super disappointed. Like I felt like they didn't make Zelda as scary as she was in the original. Like I felt like, that was the biggest reason why it scared me so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, it I didn't like it, and I was like, oh, I knew it wasn't gonna be as good. Like
Yeah.
maybe I think it might have been my own like love for the original that kind of pushed me
It's
away from
hard.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
after rewatching it, um I don't hate it anymore. Let's say that. I enjoyed it on second viewing more than I did first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to be able to watch it one day.
Mhm.
It's been like 2 years since I attempted, I think, or a year and some change since I attempted to watch it. And I just like, I was like, immediately, as soon as I saw the first truck, I was like, oh, forgot about that. Nope. And then I didn't even try again because that stuff hits me hard. Like, there's anything, kids and stuff has always been like, for me in general. It's so much worse now. And like, I watched, oh, it was that awful A24 movie. They Come at Night, It Comes at Night, something like that. And there's like a horrible child death in that I didn't even see, but I heard the mother's reaction to it, and I had to like go lay on the floor next to my son's crib. Like I was so like rocked by that I was like, I don't know if I could get through the remake of Pet Cemetery because like it's hard. Like, but I would like to. I do need to see it one day, especially because I really did like the first, and just to be able to say that I've seen it. You know.
Right. Yeah. I think when you're ready, you'll know.
Yeah.
Maybe when your kid's a little older and you don't feel like you have to chase them like in a parking lot or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have to do, well, not necessarily parking lots, but big inside places. Definitely still. I used to do the book bag thing with but he's kind of outgrown those. He doesn't, they don't really work anymore. So unless he's going to like drag me through something. So
right.
yeah. Maybe when he's older.
Yeah, maybe.
So this was of the list. This was the only one I knew for sure was going to be on here, and that's your number one, which is Halloween.
Halloween, 1978.
Yeah.
My favorite franchise. Michael Myers. I've talked about this a million times, but I used to watch this with my dad. And God rest his soul, he would dress up like Michael Myers. Like he like every Halloween he would. I don't know if you've ever seen like the reels of the dude that's like Michael Myers and he's like on the bike or he's like doing silly things.
Yes, I have. And the wife's like yelling at him. She's like, "Are you kidding
like,
me?"
oh my gosh, not again. Like that was my dad. Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
Like he became, it was weird. It like the costume, like it made him different, but he just liked to, in a fun way, like scare people. Like we would go downtown, and he would like look in the mirror, like Subway, the restaurant, and he would just tilt his head and do the Michael Myers thing, and people get all freaked out about it, and then he would take off the mask and people would laugh. But it's just the memory of watching this with him, like, will always stand out to me, and it's just nostalgic. And Michael Myers always scared me the most as a kid because he wasn't like a zombie, or he didn't go after people because he drowned in a lake and now he's gonna take revenge. He was evil from the start. He killed his own sister. Like he was just an evil man that's killing people in his neighborhood. And that always terrified me because it was so real. And so when I seen like even now, like at haunted houses or anything, Michael, it freaks me out. Like he's a scary villain.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I love that. I don't think I knew that about your dad, or maybe you touched on it briefly when I've like watched some stuff, but I didn't remember that exactly. I love that because like my dad is the reason I'm interested in horror too. Like technically I had siblings breaking rules and like they showed me the original Poltergeist, but my dad really like nurtured my love for weird things because he's like a big sci-fi guy. And so I grew up watching, like Planet of the Apes and Star Trek and like these things. But we watched all kinds of stuff together because Sci-Fi Channel often showed horror stuff too.
Yeah.
And a lot of cheesy horror, but still either way. And but I love that because like that was really what like cultivated my relationship with horror and sci-fi horror and sci-fi, and was the time that it meant spending with my dad. It was something we shared, we always had in common, and it was never my mom's cup of tea, and it was always this just like me and dad thing. So I love that. I had no idea. Yeah.
That's how my mom, she was always too afraid of it. Like even like he would be the one to like take me to haunted houses and like, like that, trying to get that like anxiety feeling that you get from a horror movie, like that comes from like him showing me these things. So
yeah, that's cool. I think I was kind of late to the Halloween franchise. I came in probably in like I was in my 20s before I
Mm-hmm.
probably saw the first one. And I still am like, I'm like 96% sure I still haven't seen all of them. I
Yeah.
know for a fact I have seen 1 through 4.
Okay.
And I know that I've seen the new trilogy, and then I've seen like some of the newer ones, like what's the one where they have the cameras in the house?
That's Resurrection.
Resurrection. So I've seen
Yeah.
Resurrection.
Yeah, that one gets a lot of hate, but that is a comfort
That's a
movie.
fun one though.
I know, like you can't watch that and not have fun with it, but people
No,
it like they don't like Busta Rhymes because like nobody
he's so
likes him in
great.
that. I think it's hilarious. Like
It's so
um
fun.
he's like trick or treat motherfucker. Like it's
Motherfucker.
so funny.
He's like
Yeah.
perfect for that. Yeah, no, I think I remember really enjoying that one, but outside of that, I cannot remember what other ones I have or haven't seen. Those are the main ones. And 3 and Season of the Witch is my favorite of the franchise. I love that one. Like, and I know
Yeah.
that's like, questionably taboo thing to say, but it is one of my favorites. But I think that those are the only ones I know for sure is 1 through 4, Resurrection, and then the newer trilogy are the
Hmm.
ones that I know for sure I've seen, but I know that there's some others in there because there's Halloween. There's
There's Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2.
Oh, I've seen those too. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even count those as part of the franchise
I didn't
because
even bring them up.
oh, yeah, no. I'm like, no, I don't enjoy those ones at all. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but Season of the Witch, I do like it. I
Yeah.
did not like it for a long time because I went into it thinking it was another Michael Myers movie and then he wasn't in it at all. And
Right.
so I feel like the marketing killed it. Like I think if it would have just been its own movie, like
And
not
not Halloween 3.
yeah, not Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. If it was just called Season of the Witch, I think that it might have gotten more positive an
Yeah.
outlook on it for sure.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that people, because it wasn't the next movie, it was the third movie. So by then you've gotten people used to this concept. Now, like we as people watching this as viewers associate the title with Michael Myers. And so
Right.
now you've thrown in this other thing without there being any like explanation or like anything whatsoever. And I know like a lot of, and I know like I think this is pretty much common knowledge, like it was originally going to be an anthology, but
It
you
was.
messed that up when you did a sequel at this
Yeah.
like,
And then they did that. They did Season of the Witch and then they went right back
right back
to
into Michael.
yeah, because everybody was like, "Where's Michael Myers?" Like people wanted more Michael, so they were like, "All right," and they gave them, what they wanted. So
Yeah, which I mean, I know a lot of people that are, really connected to Halloween. It's their favorite. It's, a
mhm.
lot of people have stories similar to like what you were saying, where they bonded with specific family members because of this, like things that's like, it's really meaningful to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I'm like, it's really been interesting this, especially with this last one coming out, like listening to all of the people that I know that have nothing but like so much love and like connection to this franchise, and then
Mhm.
now it's like over. And so hearing people talk about like all of the stuff in between, because I feel like it opened up the door for people to talk about all the other Halloween movies again. Like I
Mhm.
started seeing stuff on like reviews on Halloween 4 out of nowhere, a lot of Season of the Witch love, people revisiting their very complex emotions about the Rob Zombie ones. Like people were
Yeah.
coming up and like talking about it again as a full franchise instead
Mhm.
of just the new film. There was just something about this one that brought all of that back out in the people who love it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's again the third one, Halloween Ends. I feel like the marketing killed that too. Like I felt
Agreed.
like we were gonna get something that we didn't get, and it was very Season of the Witch. Like we're gonna just throw this on its head, and this is what you got. And so I think maybe that's where we're getting all this like Halloween 3 love, and they're just bringing up
Good
the
point.
past things. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I watched it originally on like at Peacock, because I couldn't
Yeah.
go out and see it in theaters. So I watched it on Peacock and I was like pumped. I was like, all right, like, because I really liked, I know a lot of people do not agree. I thought Kills was so much fun. Kills was
Yeah.
like so over the top and wild. I laughed way more often than I should have when I went to
Some
see
of the
Kills.
dialogue was very wonky, but I liked it. I didn't have
Yeah.
a lot of negativity towards it, like a lot of people did.
Yeah, it has like one of the funniest kills where he's inside the car and the girl in the nurse costume has like the gun and it like, oh my god, that part when she got shot with that when he pushed the door open, I lost it. I was laughing so hard. I was like, that is such a ridiculous kill. Like it would just make me laugh.
Like, she did herself wrong there.
Oh my god, but it's like my favorite one from that movie. I mean, like it literally just it was such an entertaining movie. That's really what it like boiled down to for me. Was it was entertaining.
Yeah, for sure.
But I went into it excited because I loved 2018 and I loved Kills and I was like, okay, like this is going to be really good. I'm excited about it. And the opening scene happens with Corey and the little boy and we get that font and the colors and I was like, okay, I was not prepared for this. Like, and it took, I literally like 2 days later or the next day, I went and revisited Season of the Witch. And then I watched it again and it completely changed my entire perspective on the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was too. Like the first time when it was over, like Ken looked at me and I was like, I don't think I'm ready to talk about it yet. Like that. Like he was like, what do you think? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, I can't talk about it right now because I felt like I didn't get the closure that I wanted.
Yeah.
With, Michael and Lori. Like, I thought we were getting this showdown and between them two, and that's not what we got. And so I was very like upset. Like, didn't feel like I got the closure. And then we rewatched it again, and and I guess I kind of understood like what they were trying to do. Like I applaud them for trying something different, trying to, they brought Corey Cunningham in and I didn't hate that character. Like I actually kind of liked him, but I felt like they should have probably introduced him like earlier, like maybe even in 2018, so that way we would have known who he was, not at the end of the series.
That's a lot.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot to put on a fan base, I think, because it is supposed to be, it was definitely marketed as this final battle, right? Like, and, I've talked to some other Halloween lovers. There's Robbie Horror, who is a massive Halloween fan as well. Mm-hmm. He and I talked about it on an episode not related to Halloween, but we ended up talking about it anyway. And because I think Ends had just come out. So it's like everybody was like, it came up no matter what you were talking about. Right. And he kind of broke down the trilogy. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but to sum up, he basically was saying, we got our fight in 18. The problem is that then it kept building up to the marketing, like you said, like where there was like, that's what we're going to get. So when you add in a new character, it's so hard to get connected to that when this was the set expectation.
Right.
And now it's like not the expectation anymore. It was crazy. I liked him. I liked the concept of like it going into someone else and being able to move the franchise on,
Yeah. I understood that like evil can live on in anyone if Michael, isn't there. But I was just like, I just wanted the Lori Michael Myers showdown. And I mean, we did get it a little bit at the end, but it's not what I expected at all.
No, I wanted 2 hours of that. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
2 hours of them fighting and just beating each other up.
Yeah. And honestly, I thought that they both were going to die. Like, I thought that it was going to be the end of her too. Like, I felt like if he went, she had to go. Like, they're one and the same at this point.
That actually would have made me really happy.
Yeah.
I would have been really good with that too. And they still could have done the continuation with somebody else. I think like all of that could have still worked. But yeah, we'll see. I was listening to a podcast or somebody was telling me or something that essentially paperwork wise, it is written in that like Michael Myers, the character, is not actually allowed to be dead forever. Like that's not, it's like a contract thing. I don't remember. Okay. Yeah. That basically like, even though we've seen this, like there's still always a chance that they could do something else, but I don't know what that would be. Like, I feel like now you have to do something different. If you want to continue the franchise and do something, because it can still be Halloween and not be Michael Myers, I think, as long as it's done with care.
Yeah. I mean, Corey could possibly still be alive. He did get shot, but he could, you never know.
I mean, they've They have definitely brought back horror characters from way worse situations.
I mean, you see the Halloween franchise; it's all over the place. It's so they've retconned so many different things. Like they can do it again. I don't think it's gonna die forever. Like somebody's gonna do something again with it. Maybe 10 years from now. But I still think I don't think it's gonna die forever.
No, I don't think so either. I think there's still too much that can be done, and I think there's still way too much love for it. I think they know that from a filmmaking standpoint that if we make more Halloween movies, people will watch them. Like it's not
gonna
going to
make money no matter what. It will make them money. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, so of that list, the only one that has been on the channel before is Halloween.
I figured that was the one. I didn't want to say anything because it was my number one, but I figured that was the one.
Yeah, I haven't had any Poltergeist movies. Okay. I am like, I know for a fact I haven't had Pet Sematary or People Under the Stairs, and I'm like 98% sure I haven't had any Chuckies at all.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I'm okay. I like to be different. Like I like to bring different things on.
Yeah, when I told Ken what we were talking about, he was like, "Oh, she's such a wild card. I don't even know what she's gonna have on her list." I was like, "Well, I figured at least Halloween I knew."
Yeah, that's the only thing that's like always consistent. But yeah, everything else, like I mean, I like a lot of like brutality, like stuff like that. Like I like gore, but at the same time, like I love a movie with a good message, and Chucky, I just love Chucky, and his bride, and so yeah, like it didn't like I didn't have to think about these five, like it was just
that's good. Yeah, that's cool, and I love that it had your first watch, and then the with I mean your introduction, I guess, to horror with Pet Sematary, and then the love that you have for Halloween, including like your dad and stuff like that's really cool too. Everybody takes this assignment differently. I had somebody on a few months ago that took it as like influential, like across the board for horror in general, which is fine. Okay. It made for a really interesting conversation because I mean, there's so many things that have influenced horror in a modern sense, or in the more modern sense. And but yeah, I love hearing about like people that like their gateway into horror, things that are meaningful memory wise. Like I love that. So this was great.
This was fun.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you again for making time. This was fun for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's all I have for this episode of Influential Horror. All of the links for Ashley and Sledgehammer are going to be in the description for this episode, like always. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend coming up, and I'll see you in the next one.